What's up, cucks? It's the Hater here with your Monday Night Raw review. We got a lot to talk about in this bitch, so let's get to it. First up, though, as usual, new subscriber, motherfucks. Playboy Frago. Playboy Frago, or perhaps Playboy Frago, if he is Portuguese or Brazilian, which I suspect he might be. I don't know. Sounds a little Portuguese to your boy. Anyways, yeah, and if you haven't subscribed, if you're living under a rock, basically, you know what I'm saying, I suggest you hit that subscribe button and subscribe to Maggle. You know, it's usually $10.99, but, you know, as usual, the Hater Network is free for first-time subscribers, you know what I'm saying? Just kidding, it's always free. Cuts! Now, before we get started, I'd like to hit you guys up with another little nursery rhyme. In this bitch, we cater to all types of comedies here. It goes a little something like this. Georgie Porgy, pudding and pie, jerked off in his girlfriend's eye, and when her eye was dry and shut, Georgie fucked that one-eyed slut. Oh! Anyways, let's get to it now, motherfuckers. Let's get to the Monday Night Raw review. We start the show off with a bang, in my opinion. Heyman comes out with Lesnar, right? Heyman does his shtick and basically makes the point that just because the company wants you to be behind Drew doesn't mean, motherfuckers, that Drew's gonna win. You know? He pretty much says that Brock's gonna destroy Drew like he does everybody else. Drew comes into the ring. Brock kind of charges at him, but Drew hits a Claymore, and Brock like oversells it because it's supposed to be a devastating move. Drew leaves. Brock and Heyman leave. The fans start chanting, na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. Right? As if like he's leaving for good or something, or whatever. Like, the segment's over, kids. Anyways, as Brock is by the ramp, Drew comes up, boom, another Claymore. The fans start chanting one more time. So he hits it one more time. Brock takes 3 Claymores. Drew pretty much gets to his face and says, don't doubt me. You know what I'm saying? I don't like this. I mean, like, the segment was all right, but I don't like this Drew, you know? Like, he's just attacking Brock Lesnar, you know? I kind of hope that Brock wins. I don't know why. I think, like, more and more, I just like Brock more and more. I don't know how to explain it. He's just cool, man. Brock Lesnar is just awesome, you know? Drew McIntyre, like, he's, like, you know, I like Cena a lot. You know, I always talk about how great Cena is. But one thing that I will say about Cena that I think also applies to Drew is that they're kind of fake. You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of fake. Like, Cena is all this, like, oh, I'm a good guy, you know? But I sense something there, you know? I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm sure he's a nice guy and everything like that. But it's just that, like I think Cena's one of those guys who's, like, dirtier and lewder than, like, he purports to be, you know? And I have a feeling that Drew McIntyre is just, like this is, like, a front, you know? It doesn't come off as cool. It comes off as fake. I like Drew, but I think he would make a much better heel. Now, I understand, for purposes of this WrestleMania and this segment, he has to be the face, but I think in the long run he needs to turn heel. Whereas Brock Lesnar, he plays a natural heel, but in real life he's like, I would say he's like a tweener. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's not like a good guy. He's not a bad guy. He keeps to himself, hangs out at his ranch, hunts, and you know, bangs his wife or whatever, right? So I don't know. I kind of like Brock more. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe you guys have different opinions. Next up, we had the tag match. The Street Profits' last chance against, what's it called? Seth Rollins and Cucky Murphy. So the match starts. They do the same spot they did in Saudi Arabia where Montez Ford does like a over-the-top swanton type thing, and they catch him and they double powerbomb him onto the barricade. But despite this, the way the match ends is they're wrestling. At a certain point, the referee's distracted. Owens comes in, hits a stunner on Rollins, and then Montez Ford hits the 5-star frog splash for the win, and now we have new tag champs. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I don't really like the Street Profits as much anymore. Like, they're played out. I mean, like, what is there left for them to do, you know? Like, it kind of offends me that a group like Street Profits are tag champs, but Crime Time, which is like the first version of Street Profits, never became tag champs. It also offends me that Street Profits never became NXT tag team champs, but now they're Raw tag team champs, you know, which is, you know, less of a gripe, but it's just like, I don't know, I just don't see it, man. Like, this is not going to be a team that's going to be over for a long time. Like, I don't even think they're over now. Like, you know, they're trying to make We Want the Smoke happen, and it's not happening. Just like I always say, stop trying to make fetch happen. It ain't gonna happen. Which reminds me, when I was in New York this weekend, I took my girlfriend to Broadway, and we saw Mean Girls in this bitch. So I have a whole video to make about that. It's more of a culture video. It's not gonna be about Mean Girls. It's gonna be more about the world. Let's leave it at that. The world and the clash between liberals and the agendas that were put in this play, in the play version of Mean Girls that were not in the movie, which changed the ending completely. But it's gonna be a good video, so look out for that, cucks. Anyways, Street Profits, Montez Ford, all right, cool, I get it. I think he should be like a cruiserweight. He'd make a good cruiserweight. But Angelo Dawkins, this guy's now a tag champion. Like, this is like one of the worst tag champions of all time, in my opinion, I did not enjoy this. I did not enjoy the match either. Also, like, we saw it only a few days ago, like Thursday or whatever, right? And Seth Rollins revealed after the match and after the commercial break, they're going to have the match again at Elimination Chamber. Like, I'm fucking tired of this match, man. I'm tired of Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins too, But anyways, it is what it is. Next up, we had an interesting little match. It was Riddick Moss versus Ricochet, motherfucks. Mucha Lucha in the house. Now, I figured they would use this opportunity to give Ricochet a win since he got completely manhandled and cuckolded by Brock Lesnar. But no, they actually did the right thing. They had Riddick Moss win. This is good. I'm not saying Riddick Moss is incredible, but I think the potential for Riddick Moss is greater than the potential for Ricochet. Like, Ricochet, there's a lot of Ricochets out there. That's the problem with WWE. There are a lot of Ricochets, but there aren't enough Riddick Mosses, So I like that Riddick Moss won. He won with this, like, he grabbed him in like a cradle, threw him in the air, and then clotheslined him in the air. It was pretty cool. Then he hit this, like, almost like a snap neck breaker. It was pretty cool. But I think the move he did before the neck breaker would have made a better finisher, in my opinion, because Riddick Moss is a big, strong guy. So a neck breaker is, I don't know, it's not fitting for him. It should be like a lifting type move, like the other one that he did. So that was whatever. I enjoyed it, like, considering what it was a nice short jobber match. But it was also for the 24/7 title, I believe, and no one came afterwards to, like, attack Riddick Moss, It appeared, like, I was excited to see Mojo Rawley and Riddick Moss as a team, but it seems now that the whole point of that was just to introduce Riddick Moss. Like, inevitably he was going to turn on Mojo Rawley, but they did it. I think they pulled the trigger quicker because they're like, all right, Mojo Rawley sucks, I like Mojo Rawley, but they seem to think he sucks. Next up, we had AJ versus Aleister Black in a fun little segment, right? AJ Styles comes out and says, but before Aleister Black has a chance to, to beat, to fight AJ Styles, he must first beat the toughest man in the building, Hot Carl, motherfuckers, Hot Carl. Hot Carl comes in. They have like a decently competitive match. Eventually, Carl gets defeated by Aleister Black. Now, obviously, we all know what that means. That means he's going to have to fight Gallows next. But the announcer is like, now he has to fight AJ. AJ comes back, and he's like, no, not yet, cucks. First, he's got to go through. That's right, you heard it here first, cucks. Luke Gallows, Big Luke. So, instead of beating Luke Gallows, I like the fact that Luke Gallows got himself DQ'd by just continuously beating the shit out of Aleister Black. Afterwards, Anderson came in and continued to beat on him. They hit the Magic Killer. Then it was AJ versus Aleister Black, but obviously, like, Aleister Black was beat to shit at this point. So, long story short, AJ Styles hits a phenomenal forearm and pins Aleister Black using the Rest in Peace pin, which I thought was cool. And this sets us up for Elimination Chamber, Aleister Black versus AJ Styles, where AJ Styles should win clean to put him over so he's ready to face Undertaker. Next up, we had, what do we have next? We had Liv Morgan versus Ruby Riott with Sarah Logan as the referee. Now, I understand they used to be a group, but I don't understand why the other person in the group has to be the referee. Like, doesn't add anything, The only reason that happened was because so that Ruby Riott could kind of get pissed off, be a twat, and Sarah Logan did a fast count, so Liv pinned Ruby Riott. After the match, Sarah Logan hits Liv Morgan with a knee, so no one really cares. This is just to set up the Women's Elimination Chamber match, which is probably going to be the main event, because what else could it be, What else? Like, this Elimination Chamber is going to be like the worst one ever. It's one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year, but it's one of the worst ones this year, because the main event is going to be like a number one contenders match for the women's title. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, because Goldberg's not going to be there. Lesnar's not going to be there. I don't see any matches booked for Drew McIntyre. I don't see any matches booked for Roman Reigns. You know, it's going to feel like an underwhelming B-level card. Like, that's the kind of card you give to Saudi Arabia, and you keep, like, you know, the wrestlers, like, not overworked so they can compete in the Elimination Chamber, which is a fun match. But, c'est la vie, motherfucks. Before the commercial, maybe after the commercial, they showed this little thing. It's a picture of Goldberg winning the title. And, like, fake Michael Cole says that the picture of Goldberg winning the title is the most liked photo in the history of WWE's Instagram. So, how do you like them apples? What do you think of them apples, motherfucks? All these beards that were saying, nobody wants this. This is out of touch. Is he really? Because what Vince decided to do got the most likes ever. And I'm not saying likes are the ultimate metric, but they are a metric, right? They're by far a better metric than beards going on and complaining on Reddit or whatever, right? So, good for them. Good for Goldberg. I like Goldberg, motherfuckers. Next up, we had a backstage segment with between No Way Jose and Eric Rowan. No Way Jose and his like conga line are like, excuse me, can we see what's in the cage? And Eric is like, well, since you asked nicely, you're the first one to ask nicely, I'm going to show you, right? So he goes to the cage, he reaches in and he pulls out this giant spider, which is obviously like a toy spider, but, you know, what's it called, right? They pretend it's real. Like the announcer's like, I think it's real, I think it's alive. I'm just like, dude, it's obviously a toy spider. You can tell by its face. But anyways, it scares the shit out of everybody, and hopefully that's the last we'll see of this. I mean, what's the point of the thing in the cage? You know, now we know it's a spider. Like, who cares? Also, why would it matter what's in the cage? It's obviously some sort of animal, something you have to put in a cage. So whether it's a spider or a snake, it changes nothing, you know. So, but I liked the fact that they revealed what it was. So now we can move on with our fucking lives. Next up, we had Shayna Baszler versus Kairi Sane, right? This match went on longer than I would have liked. Becky Lynch interrupts at a certain point and sits for commentary. She's dressed like a 90s hooker. I don't know what that's all about. Match continues. Eventually, Shayna puts on the sleeper hold, a.k.a. the Kirifuda clutch, and she wins the match. Then we had Humberto and Rey Mysterio versus Andrade and Angel Garza. Angel Garza, putos! But anyways, poor Rey Mysterio, I mean, he has been putting over these jabronis for like years, you know? Every time they get like a Hispanic wrestler that they want to make their new Rey Mysterio, it's up to Rey Mysterio to get him over. And it never fucking works. Rey Mysterio outlasts all these motherfucks, you know? But I do like Angel Garza. This guy impresses me every week, you know? Like, he has these facial expressions that are consistent with storylines and storytelling, right? Humberto Carrillo is just like a jobber. This guy will never be a star. You know, Angel Garza, you got something there. I mean, like, I don't think he's big enough to be like world heavyweight champion, but he's big enough for sure to be like in an Andrade type spot, you know? And if he's really good, if he gets really, really good, he might one day be one of those like Rey Mysterio types that like wins like a world title here for like a day and a half or two, you know? I mean, he's not going to have a Rey Mysterio career, obviously, but, you know, you understand what I'm saying. Like, there's definitely something there, right? The match ends when Rey Mysterio hits a double 619 on the enemies, and Humberto hits a moonsault on Andrade and pins him. Decent match. I'm tired of this storyline, too, you know? Then we had, by far, the best segment of the night and the best segment of the week. This was better than anything on the AEW pay-per-view. Beth Phoenix comes out, starts talking about Edge. Within like 10 seconds, Orton's music hits. He comes into the ring. Orton goes for a hug. Beth Phoenix, of course, shuns him. Orton then goes for a handshake. She shuns him on that too. Now, she's like, why the hell would I shake your hand or hug you, you son of a bitch, after what you did to my husband? So then Randy Orton is like, look, I owe you an explanation. And his explanation is this. And it was an awesome explanation because it's like the explanation of a crazy person. Basically, he's like, yo, Edge one time saved my life, but when I was like, you know, having problems, and then I was able to become a father and like, you know, be there for my daughter's volleyball games and do this and do that, teach my sons this, teach my sons that. And then eventually, he explains that like, he did this so Edge could do the same, right? So like Edge, you know, Edge shouldn't be wrestling. The idea, the subtext is Edge shouldn't be wrestling because he's like barely hanging on by a thread. And therefore, someone like, what's it called? Like Randy Orton is here to like pretty much put him out of his misery, right? So he can go and be a father, you know? Beth Phoenix is like about to cry. She slaps him in the face. Randy Orton gets angry but doesn't do anything. She then kicks him in the stomach. He pops up and RKO's her. And then he leaves without saying a word. But before that, he tells Beth Phoenix, he's like, Beth, I love Edge and your daughters more than you do because you enable him. Now, this was just a great segment overall, primarily because Randy Orton is just like a classic heel. Randy Orton is one of the best heels of all time, right? You can tell this guy is not a friendly person in real life. He's really good at his job in terms of like being able to sell like an act in a way where you're like, man, this guy really is a piece of shit, you know? And that's what makes him an effective wrestler, motherfuckers. This is the most compelling thing going into WrestleMania by far. You know what I mean? And for in the beginning, it was compelling because it's like, oh, Edge is going to be in a one-on-one match. But at this point, it wouldn't even matter if it was Edge. If this was like Matt Hardy and Rebby Sky instead of Edge and Beth Phoenix, it would still be the hottest thing going into WrestleMania because it's a real story. You know, it's like Randy Orton just attacked this guy because he's a crazy bastard, right? And I love it. I loved every second of it. Now, I'm going to cut this video here because even though Raw was 3 hours as usual, I got through it pretty fast. You know, like I talked about everything there is to talk about. There wasn't really much going on in terms of like, you know, development of storylines. I touched on everything. So I'm going to let this go right now. And there's a possibility that since this video was a little short, I got some time, I might, motherfucks, do another video. I don't know if I'll release it today or not, so don't hold your breath, cucks. But yeah, there's definitely a possibility I might do another video for you guys. It's going to be either the Mean Girls one. I mean, it's not going to be the Mean Girls. It'll be titled something else, obviously. Or it'll be a 25 Reasons. You know, I have a few videos in my head-a-roo. I just don't want to, like, overwhelm the channel with all these videos that I'm releasing out here, you know? But, yeah, motherfuckers, stay dirty and keep it gangsta, bitches.